Good morning, Susan at Seaside Stitches. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my hopefully enthusiastic sewing session. I am intending to make this. I will put a picture of it in above or on the screen somewhere, and it's quite, I don't know about complicated, but you need to concentrate. So there's panel pieces across and up and down and things. It looks fairly simple, like there's just a crossways thing here, but the way the instructions are, I'm going to have to concentrate. So I don't know if I can do that and bring you along with me, or I'll get too mixed up. So yesterday I had a really productive day. I cut out the pattern pieces. I made a scarf from the Stitch Sisters, just put on a quick one before Christmas of sewing a fleece scarf, really simple, and I made that yesterday afternoon, while I was waiting for my phone to charge because I thought it was ready to film and it wasn't. So I made a quick scarf. It was part of my family Christmas presents to people, and and yesterday my lovely husband Alan was on the first time on Zoom, so that was a bit fraught for him, and he was doing a tutorial with Fred Fitton Wigan, who is a wonderful artist, painter. We know him because he comes to our drumming. I mean, he's been doing the drumming a lot longer than we have, and we know him from there. Wonderful guy. And so they were doing something on colour. So Alan was upstairs playing at listening and daubing about some paint, I'm assuming, I don't know. And while he was doing that, I thought I shall put myself to good use and I had a big coil of rolled up PDF pattern for the Phoebe flounce from Pattern Union. And that's been there for quite a few weeks, and I cut that out. So I've cut that, just the pattern. I haven't cut out the fabric yet, so that is ready to move on to once I've finished this. And I have another project that I'd like to do before I'm doing a collaborative project with someone. So what I'm going to do is I shall angle the camera so that you can see more the sewing machine and less of me, and that's it really. And now I'm not timing myself as a race, but I'm just clocking the fact for myself that it's 11:05, I think. Yeah, it's 11:05, so I'll just crack on and see. Just get an idea of how long you have to sew each seam twice. So you sew it on the seam allowance normal seam line, and then another row of stitches inside. I'm not going to overlock these pieces. There was I'm trying to think of her name. I think something like behind the hemline. There was a pattern review of it, and she was wearing it and it looks really good on, really well fitted, but she was saying you can't really adjust, you can't add any modifications to it. It is as it is. So I'm just going to make a straightforward 14. I've been caught out a few times lately with doing a 12, and so I'm going to do a 14. If it isn't right, I shall whiz it up the sides and make it right. Yes, so I'm going to do that. But I'm also not going to overlock it, because what she said was, because you've got these seams across the midriff, she found it quite uncomfortable. It was a bit scratchy, a bit itchy, and she's I always wear a slip anyway under dresses that are not lined, but I don't want to have the inconvenience of that, and also it's going to be overlocked at other parts, so I'm not going to do that. It's French terry. It's a beautiful purple. It's exactly the same colour as the shawl cardigan I made. It's the same fabric. It's from Flamingo Fabrics online, and they're based in Dundee. And yeah, I don't know how it will make up as a dress, French terry. and I only want it as a pull-on kind of almost sweater dress really, but we'll see how it goes. So I may come on and speak to you later. I have made notes of which instructions, where do I start, because I'm doing version D, and I start with instruction number 7, and I think that is upper front to upper back, so 2 to 3, so there's my 2. There's my 3. I've cut out the notches, well I've marked the notches or snipped the sides. So piece 2 is cut on the fold. Not that, sit off way. See the strange size pieces, strange shaped pieces. I've given myself a selection of lilacs and purple because I have made the cardigan before. It's more like, comes out more like a jacket, and there's top stitch. So you sew along the seam, you sew inside the seam, and then you do top stitching. And I think this comes out a little bit too dark on the top stitching, but it's not a bad match when you put the thread across it. It's not a bad match there. But I think I used this one, so I just need to get the jacket afterwards and check, because I was very happy with the end result of that. So I've got 2 bobbins. These 2 are slightly different. No, they're not. They're right, that's the different one. Oops. Oh. Right, I've got enough to do that. I have set up my other machine. Hello! I've set up my other machine. My older machine, my previous machine, there was nothing wrong with it. Oh yeah, so I've got the walking foot to put on, and I've set the other one up. Well, I'm about to set the other one up. Once I've matched this thread and seen that it's right on the jacket upstairs on the top stitching, I'm going to set my other machine up so that I'll just move across and top stitch on there as I go along. Okay then, we are now 1 hour on, feels like 1 year on, and I haven't sewn a stitch. It's been one of those mornings. I haven't been off having a brew or anything. I did go upstairs for this. I don't know if that was in this last video bit or not, but I was checking on which thread to use for the top stitching, and I don't have enough to. The one I've got here, I like the match of it. This is slightly pinkier, more pink than lilac. It's a midge is different, but as I want to wear the dress with the top, when I finished it, I thought it would be nice if it matched. So I don't have enough to do the whole garment and the top stitching. So I've decided to thread up my old machine with the with the thread that matches the top stitching on this, and I will top stitch on there. And also that means I don't get mixed up, and so a straight seam with a zigzag, well, a zigzag with a different, because I do a slightly bigger, more exaggerated zigzag on the top stitching than I do inside. So I'll be able to leave my stitch length and width and length the same as I'm sewing the seams, and then I can top stitch on that one. It makes sense to me, but it doesn't really matter. But I still haven't put the walking foot on that one and put and threaded that one. So could take me another hour, because getting the walking foot on is not easy. And the time before last, I just did it. I had it absolutely wonderfully positioned, and it just went on. And I was, I need to do it with the foot down. I know how to do it. I know. And then last time I did it, I couldn't get the screw done, and I couldn't. And then it took me ages, and finally I got it on. I was so pleased with myself, and I hadn't raised the thing that leans on the needle shank. So I had to take it off again and start again, and it took me, I don't know, good 25 minutes. And I came, it was one of the vlog days that I was doing, and I came and I'm going, I'm exasperated. I've been exasperated by my inadequacy of putting on a walking foot. Anyway, so now I have filled a bobbin, I have had a few little mishaps with the bobbin threading, and I've changed the needle to a microtex. I thought I had a quilting needle in, and I was about to put, anyway, I have a system, so I keep a note of which needle is in at a time, or I thought I did, and so I didn't have a quilting needle in. I had taken that one out and swapped it for a something needle that I can't identify, and I'd now swapped it for a microtex. But now my needle threader doesn't work again. So I had a bit of a moan about that, but I hadn't actually recorded it. I thought I had, but I haven't. So it heard me, and so now it won't respond again. So and me trying to thread a microtex needle, it's got a tiny eye, the one that I was using. I've swapped it for a size 12/80. Anyway, I am now going to go and have a hot chocolate and lower my shoulders a bit so that I can actually start sewing. Anyway, this is the jacket that I'm kind of matching the dress to. It's just a cardi really. It's called a shawl cardigan. It is a McCalls. Can't remember the number. I'll pop it up there. I've done a video of it. I've done a video number, I don't know. And one of my episodes. I really like it. If I was doing it again, I'd do the longer version, which I've done as a waistcoat one and a greeny pineapple one. Weird. Anyway, I'm going to sign off for a little while and then come back and we will see how we get on. It's a good job I'm enthusiastic to do this, because this is one of those, oh well, I'll go and do something else then. Okay, I shall be back in a little while. Thank you. Okay, 2 sewing machines ready to go. I'm ready to go. A bit more refreshed with a nice hot chocolate. And I thought it was recording and it wasn't, so I'll just show you again. These are my first 2 pieces that I'm starting with. That is the top of the front, and that is the back. No. That is the back of the garment, and this, or these, let's start again. So this is the front, this is the back. So all I have to do is sew the shoulder seams. I sew once on the seam line and then once within the seam allowance for an extra. There we go. And I've got my other machine ready, and for top stitching I've just done a test on it. Not there. Okay. So I'll just adjust the video and you can see the sewing rather than me. Okay, so we are now 2 hours later almost than when I was originally going to start. But I'm not doing it on the clock, so to speak, but I just wanted to keep an eye on how long it takes me to do it. I've got 5/8 seam allowance, and I will just check that. My doubt came in because I also cut out the Phoebe Flounce, just the paper pattern last night, and I know that one is a 3/8. So right, I've got a mat under here that is rolled up. I drew my foot back before. I'm sewing in bare feet. I walk about in bare feet. Mostly I'm in bare feet unless I'm going out somewhere. And I just caught the side of my foot on my chair. Anyway, it wasn't on video, so you didn't hear me shout or swear. Don't think I swore. Okay, off we go. I'm in need of a new pair of snips. I inherited those with this house. A lady had left her sewing, an elderly lady who hadn't really been out in the summer house for years probably, but there was a little chest of drawers in there with her old biscuit tins of ancient sewing things. Felt quite privileged to look after it for a while. Since split it up a bit now, but these were part of it, but I need some new ones. Okay, so that is, and press seams towards the back, but I also have to do another stitch. It recommends how far in. Stitch again 6mm away, a 1/4 inch away. Well, I reckon that's my 1/4 inch. My walking foot is much more clicky than usual. I'm not going to investigate because I can't bear that. Turn in hem, press, easing in fullness if necessary. Open out hem, turn in again so raw edge is a long crease. Make a 5/8 narrow hem. Okay, so it's 5/8 in the end. Our Suki, our cat, she adopted us more than 10 years ago. She just came and sat on the windowsill and wouldn't go away, and we tried ignoring her. Tried not to feed her like you're supposed to, because she must have a home somewhere, but she didn't go away. Jeez. And so I put a note in the local paper shop. Paper shop. News agents nowadays, I suppose, but we used to call them, "Are you going to the paper shop?" And in the meantime, we realised she was in lovely condition, so she must have belonged to someone. She had just got mixed up or something, but no one claimed her. Put a few things around people's doors. So I can't talk and walk. I don't know what I'm doing. But we were weighing up how old she must be and whether we could take on another cat. We'd had one for 16 or 17 years. She was a year older than our son, so we'd had her for quite a while. And she was a little character, but we'd had her from a kitten, so you know what you've got, don't you? You know what... Cats are cats and they're individuals. Anyway, she didn't play. She didn't want to be held. She wanted to nose around a bit and sit on the sofa at the back of us. She didn't want to be picked up. She liked to be stroked, but she wouldn't come on your knee. And I mean, for months and months, she's only ever been voluntarily jumped up and sat on Alan's knee 3 times in all that time. And perhaps once for me. So we don't know what had happened to her or what her issues were, or if there were issues with her from someone else. We don't know. But we reckon she was perhaps about 6, given kind of what we knew about cats. She wasn't interested in playing with cat toys, or I can't talk and book. Anyway, she's become more and more peculiar as we've had her. And because our other cat was 16, 17, when she started acting very strangely and she didn't have a urine infection or she didn't have anything that was kind of medical that we were aware of, we could realise that she did have a kind of cat dementia. And it seems that Suki is definitely going a similar way. She kind of ranges about throughout the night. Not necessarily, no, that's not true. She'll get up 2 or 3 times, come down and get something to eat, because she grazes. She's always grazed. She don't have a set meal time. But she didn't used to have a tray or anything, because she just was an outside cat and did what she needed to do outside. But if we've had to go, leave her overnight or anything, and my friend has been in, this is a while ago, my friend would come in and sit with her and let her out, feed her and let her out, let her back in, sit with her again. And they're the only times, and when she's been at Cattery, that she's had a tray. For a while now, she won't use a tray. She then got that she was using the bathroom as her preferred toilet. So she had to have a tray then. But now she has stopped using her tray and comes to announce that she has just very kindly weed in the shower tray just by the plug hole, so making it easy for you. But she'd like you to know about it, so she comes up to wake you up to tell you that that's what she's done. But she has always been, as my daughter-in-law called her, a little special. When you open the door, she would always walk, instead of walking through it, the back door, the outside door, any door that she'd asked to go through, she would walk round in a spiral before going through it. So she has some little issues. But she'd become very vocal. She was never vocal. She would be a little quiet mewer. But she sounds much more like our part Siamese one that we have now. But we know what this is because she was booked in for the cattery because we were going for Christmas to my sons and family. When we couldn't go, we decided we would... The cattery she goes to is lovely. She's a veterinary nurse and she only takes 12 cats. She has a brilliant setup and she just has a little hospital part towards the back with just a separated unit that she's got. She'll only take 4 that need extra care. So we know she's in good hands, and as she was already booked in, we decided that because I'd had a lot of broken sleep with her lately, that we would still let her go to the cattery. And Sheila loves her, so she gives her a bit of it. Well, she loves them all. She's very good. She's not doing it for profit. It's quite obvious she's not doing it for profit. She's got land there that she could extend the cattery, and she's got such a good reputation. She's turning people down all the time. So getting to thinking, oh, people will judge me. I don't care. So it was a considered decision, and she came back yesterday. So this is why she's a bit even more befuddled. She slept most of the morning, and she's now got up and is a bit kind of wondering where she is. So I'm not saying I'd always take this level of care with it, with making sure it's a measured 5/8 seam, but I don't. This is the front, and if it goes wrong there, it'll be baggy. It just feels like it's worth doing properly, this bit. Well, it's always worth doing properly, isn't it? But okay, I shall just nip the edge of that with the iron and try not, just as a press, not to iron it and stretch it, because I've got to have that crease to fold the inner bit into it. Right, well, I've been very, very careful with this. I've been a bit belt and braces with the pins on this. So, and my idea to top stitch it on the other machine has gone out of the window because I'm going to do it on this one. So I did test the thread before and it's not that different, so that's fine. Yes, and I realised I'd got another thread, so we're fine. Yes, let's see how this goes. think I'll sort this out. I'll sort this out after my lunch is ready. So it's what Lancashire people would call tater ash, or potato hash, but it has no meat in it, so it is lentil potato hash. Other than that, it's the same. Warming and comforting, and potatoes, carrots, onion and herbs and seasoning, and green lentils. A tin of organic green lentils. So it's not got any thickener, any gloopy bit. So this stage has taken me over an hour, and all it was sewing 2 shoulder seams, re-sewing them, and turning over a hem for the neckline. I'm not fussed, it's a practice for the next one, and I've learnt a new skill. Right, I'll attack that more when I come back, otherwise I might end up. And the other one went through okay, so what I will do is drive it the other way. I'm looking forward now to seeing how the construction goes, because you have to do a double flutter flab in a minute, which is a double flutter flab and a double flutter flab, a reverse somersault landing upside down your left trouser leg. That was my dad's interpretation of a double flutter flab. I shall now perform a double flutter flab. Okay, so there's the top, and then we cross over right and left on the top front. There is a version where you can do a crossover at the back as well, so you can have a V-neck front and the same at the back, but I've got a round neck at the back, so this is just a case of basting. I've taken so much time over this that I've only got 19% now, and I'm on low power mode. Oh no. Okay, so make this a basting stitch. Pivot that bit, so we're at a point. Come back this way. Last time I did this, I thought my machine had broken, but it is only the walking foot. As soon as I took it off, normal service was resumed. Okay, that's that. So that's just a large stitch, a long stitch to hold it together while we do the next step. I like to cut my threads as I go. I watched a video on 6 tips or something like that from Evelyn Wood. She's a vintage seamstress, and I love her channel too. I haven't been on it for a long while, but she was one of the people who got me. Her attitude, her manner, everything is just very inspiring. So she's one of the ones I used to look at early on before I'd really started sewing properly. So this is what we're looking like now. Kind of. And now we're going to do a bit of jiggery pokery. Okay, so tick that bit. This colour can keep where I'm up to pin one upper left midriff section 5 to the left side upper front. And number 5, Johnny 5, number 5. Who's to know which is the left and the right? We need to, they've both got fingers, so right, left front. The right section Pin one upper left midriff section to the left side of the upper front. This is the front, the upper front, this is the left side, and I shall trim off that bit. Well, my third pair of scissors from that drawer. These were my mum's scissors. She used to have a fabric stall and she'd cut fabric with the... my mum was... Oops, that's in the wrong bit, but it doesn't matter. She was left-handed at school and they made her write with her right hand. And so she had trouble sewing at school and cutting with scissors with her right hand. So she did have one left-hand pairs of scissors because you don't realise, but the scissor action is different. Anyway, she taught herself to work using the right-handed scissors. Now then, I have to find the appropriate. I'm thinking that as that goes in line with that, that is probably the thing, and there is a notch, and that is likely to be towards the back seam, sleeve seam. I shall see. So I'll pin. Okay, so what am I doing with this? Am I basting this? Pin one upper left midriff section to the left of upper front, matching symbols. Stitch. Press seam towards midriff. It's a stitch and a stitch, so there's the other notch. Now my 5/8 mark on here is not accurate. I think it's too far over. Keep it as near to it as possible. So I need to go back onto stitch 6, 1.5 and 2. And find my foot pedal. Making sure that the crossway over is flat. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. Have to stitch it again yet, but let's have a look. Oh, something's happening. Something's happening. Shall see. Stitch that again, and then I'm going to have to charge my phone, so we'll be missing a bit of this between us. I think that needs to go on there. Okay, where I left off was I had put on, oops, this is the back, and started with the shoulder seams, and then and then the front, and then doing all round here to do a narrow hem, which was a 5/8 of an inch hem, and then you pressed it just on the fold and folded inside up to that amount, so it's half the 5/8 of a anyway, yes, so you tuck that in and then stitch that, so that became that. Then we crossed over the front and joined, whoops, let me just find the thing, because I just want to update you to where we are. I've not done much since I left you, but there we go. So I did the hem around the neckline, and this stage and this stage took me nearly an hour because I was just taking my time and making sure I got it right, and you've got to double stitch the seams. It shouldn't have took me an hour, but that's how long it took me. And then you crossed over, that bit's not the same, it's that bit. So I joined the crossover to the V point and just basted that, and then I added this pattern number 5 it is, and it's the first part of the right midriff, so it's just a triangle, and then matched that on the back, the triangle on the left of the back, so on the right, so there's that. And then it was to put pattern piece number 6 on, which is when my battery was going. So I put on pattern number 6 on the front and the back, and you have to stitch it twice, and then I've trimmed it. As I'd said, I'm not overlocking, and then I've tried it on a little, and I don't think it's going to fit me. So at this point, it's not going to be big enough. What the next stage is to put on pattern number 7, which kind of goes here, but I don't put it onto that, I attach it to the skirt. Now the skirt is really wide. There are 4 pieces of this, unless I've done it wrong. Yeah, you cut 2 on a fold. So I've cut the one and then I've cut the second one. Because this piece is upside down, I can't just easily show you how that fits to it, but it doesn't matter for now. But there's a lot of material in here. So, and I just onto the other piece. Sorry, because I have to miss a few out because it's not the same that they're working through. So instead of putting on piece number 7, which is what you do if you're making, making just a sweater, just a top, you put on number 7 and then the other piece. Well, you put on your number 7 onto the almost circular skirt really, and attach that to that, and then do the same on the back, and so then it all comes together when you add number 7 to number 6, if that's making sense. I'm only stopping there just to explain this because I may not continue. So if this is far too small, then I probably won't continue at this point. I've probably got enough to cut this out again, and I'm sure I can do some jiggery pokery with the gathering of this skirt. Well, it's not going to be gathered, but because there is so much fabric in it. But rather than finish it and find I've done all that work and then I just have to take it apart again, I'd rather just, I'm going to baste the seams, which I wouldn't normally be doing because you apply it all separate and then join up after. So I'm just going to baste those seams and try it on. So you're up to date now, but my phone is still not properly charged, so I'll probably do that, and then I'll get back to you later on with what I've decided to do. I hope that makes sense. But it does look good. I mean, I'm pleased with it. I'm pleased with how it's gone together, and to be honest, it's all it is just sides. It's just straight seams. It's just that was just tricky because I've never done it before. And these are just straight seams. You're just following a plan, and it's very simple to follow. Yeah, so that's where we're up to. Okay. Just correcting myself, because apart from the fact that I said that's on the right and it's the left and all that, that's the left and that's the right, really. But that doesn't matter. I did say there are 4 pieces of this skirt. There aren't 4 pieces. There are 4 widths of this. That's what I meant. So that, there's that width of it. Twice because it's on the fold. So there's only 1 piece there. And then twice again because it's on the fold for the back. It's just the same. They're identical pieces. Now when I said I could do some jiggery pokery on it, I did add 4.5 inches to the length of it. On the pattern I thought it looked a bit short for me, so I added a little bit and then I added a little bit more, so I've actually added 4.5 to it. So if I'm stuck and I do decide to make the top again and I've got enough, then I could just make this a bit, I could come down a bit and that would be wider, and I still wouldn't take too much off the length, I don't think. But that's what I mean by might have to do a bit of jiggery pokery with it. So I'm not abandoning it, but I just need to know where I stand for how it fits. So thank you for coming along with me so far. Okay, it does kind of fit me. It kind of doesn't fit me where I didn't expect it not to be fitting me. It's not that it's too small. It's got a pleat thing here. So that's possible that I can lift this up and tuck it in there somehow. Undo that, what I mean, and drop that in. It's going to be a bit snug, but I'm going to carry on with it. Okay? I do quite like it. Not very flattering with my bare arms, but never mind. I'll keep them like that. Okay, hi. I don't know we have a light, but we'll do what we can. And I did it on Christmas Eve. I went all blurry and overexposed and fuzzy, and I don't know what this will be like, so I'll just have a quick look. The bit that I haven't been able to film was adding piece 7, which is that little triangle, piece 7 to the side, to the top of the skirt, and then I've done piece 7 to the top of the back skirt, and it'll just take me a minute to work out. And there's the bodice so far. So on the front I just have to fiddle which one is which, because they are identical but they do different things. So that one is meant to carry through and become this one. That's it. Just need you to get your head around it. Got a bit warm now. The heating's come on and I put the oven on, so there is a timer that may ring for me to go and remind me to put the veg on. So I'm just going to get this pinned and ready. I didn't want to just abandon it and do it again tomorrow. I thought, let's get it done. Won't be totally finished, but that's fine. I'm not quite sure what's required of me in this bit, so I shall just look to match the notches and see. And possibly the reason it's not fitting me as it's meant to is, I'm not sure about this, it did tell me to pull the fabric at the back of the machine and at the front as I was sewing it, and I didn't do any of that. So that could be the reason. I'm not quite certain how this goes together, given that. There we go. There we go. Because we've got that seam onto there, This is what I'm just looking at. Got this piece onto this, and then we've got a bit of a thing here as that overlaps, but then there isn't a point at which you don't sew to the end of it, as far as I know, and pivot it off like it was as if it were a V-neck or something. So I'm not quite sure about that. I shall just get my notches matched and then investigate my instructions. As far as I know, it just says so to the other can't think what they called it. There's a diagonal into it, but I don't know what it's. See, because it's going to get a bunched up thing there, aren't you? Unless that's open. So I'm going to investigate, because I've sewn it down. That doesn't seem quite right to me. So have I got that wrong? Because that should be there. Well, that should be there, but should it be a bit further over? Oh, I'm not sure now. I shall look at the pattern and I shall go and put the veg on. Multitasking, you know. Oh, I've just explained all that and it didn't record. I mustn't have pressed the record as strongly as I thought I had. So I'll just do that again. So my quandary at the moment is I have decided I have got it on at the right piece on the right side. So what we have is the skirt, which I've added 4 inches to the bottom of, and well, half the skirt, the other half goes on the back, and this is what I'm calling piece 7, and it's supposed to give the impression that that is running along underneath this stripe, whatever. And so that piece doesn't look quite right, but that's because of the way it's pinned. But if we were to stretch it out, you would get the impression that that is that stripe. So my little quandary is I'm trying to work out, given that this has been attached to this as per instructions, just the triangle attached to the skirt piece, and then we attach the skirt piece with the triangle on it to this slanted seam line, and it's just, how is that done to make sure that's kind of taken care of? Obviously I can unpick that, but it's just making sure that that is a proper seam line, and that's all I'm looking at. So I was looking, just gone to get the instructions just to see if there is a pivot point or an indication of how that I bet there is. There'll be a marking, there'll be a symbol, won't there? Looks like there is. There will be a symbol on my pattern piece that I've not transferred. So it is a bit like there is a pivot point. So I'll work out that. I don't know if that makes sense. Is that clear? There is a pivot point that's marked on there, and then that should clarify things. There we go. Right, my timer is working because I have to go and turn off the veg now. Okay, multitasking. Okay, I had to stop videoing for a while. I've just had a bit of a paddy, bit of a screaming abdabs about it. I could not get in my head how to put the seam together. I've done it now. I'm just about to sew it. But it'll either be right or it won't be right. But it's such a simple idea, it was really frustrating me that I couldn't grasp how to do it. It's not the actual seam itself, it's the fact that another piece is joined to it, and I couldn't work out how to make sure that that just didn't leave a load of bulk. Anyway, too ridiculous when you just get so... So I need to ease in this bottom one, which is the skirt. Almost a sort of semicircle skirt, it's quite flowing. Don't know how it'll be in French Terry, I'm not really bothered, I just wanted to try it in this. So here we go, and backwards, backwards again, and let's stick with our 5/8. Are we there? Not quite. So if I had a position where I could sew and keep my fingers crossed, that's what I'll be doing. Oh, here we go. I don't know how many years I sewed for. I would say, I don't know, 25, 20 without a stop or whatever. Since I've had this machine, this is my 4th needle that I've broken. I don't remember ever actually breaking a needle unless I was going through something really, really dense. And this is quite a common occurrence. This is about the 4th. I've only had this machine since August. Probably didn't start using it till September. There was no pin in the way. There was... It's a microtex needle. I'm doing 2 thicknesses and it's not very heavy. French Terry. And there it went. So at least it was all attached. It's when it flies off in all directions. And I was careful about pins, etc. I had been moving them as I've been going along. But hey ho, just another thing to test my resolve with this frock. It's the simplest of constructions, and I'm going to change it like a hand needle. What's really weird about it is it was so simple, I thought I must be doing it wrong. It can't possibly be as simple as that. Oh, I've got a positive drive now. What have I done with my little black one? Oh, probably when I change my... There you go. Because I changed my foot on my other machine. Oh, on my other machine. And yeah. I really love this little dinky one that Alan found for me out of his stash of tools in the garage. Because the flat one, it works, but it slips out of my hand because I can't grip very well with my right hand. Oh, Never pulled that off before. I have a little packet that I put broken needles or where then. Is this how do you able to get this back on? I'm gonna have to not talk because I've no idea how to do this. I'm just not meant to finish this today, am I? Right, I'm going to have a Ferrero Rocher break. And we're back, and this is the crumpling of a Ferrero Rocher paper. Yes, well needed. Change the needle, and now I've got the wire to my my foot pedal just got stuck between my toes, but never mind. It's a lovely day today. Okie doke. Let's see again. Maybe I was pulling it. I just looked in my troubleshooting about needles. It said, don't pull it. Leave that to your walking foot. Absolutely. That's not what the instructions on this pattern say. But I'm not pulling it anyway. There we go. Off we go again. Now I've just changed it to a straight stitch because my needle threader can't understand it when it's out of its normal position. And anyway, it didn't understand it when it was back in its normal position. So never mind that. Off we go again. 5/8. Little back stitch in case I didn't do one. Lovely. Lovely jubbly. See what happens next. Go. One pin. Out it comes. And off we go. And snip these threads. And snip these threads. And fingers crossed that it has caught it as it should. It has. I'm going to flick myself now. There you go. My problem was only with this seam here, which direction. If you turn it in one direction, it pulled this fabric up and made a loop, and it was defying my understanding. Whereas if it's this where there was a loop, well, not a loop, a hump, well, I don't know. It didn't belong to anybody. It didn't belong to this seam, it didn't belong to this seam, and I didn't know what it would look like, so there it is. I've just to repeat the other thing exactly the same on the back. It's still looking like it probably won't fit me, but we'll see. And I'm a bit stuck really. If it doesn't fit me, I can fiddle about with it, and I probably will, but it's the pattern I've got was for, it may have been 8, 10, 12 and 14, so it doesn't go any bigger. And I know sizes vary, but this is a McCalls pattern, and I haven't been a size 16 in a dress or a sewing pattern for never. So, well, since I was pregnant 40 years ago, and so it wouldn't be a really good, I don't know, for my street cred in my head, I wouldn't fancy buying a 16 pattern, given that I decided to make a 14 as a concession, just in case it was a bit tight. I have a number of clothes in my wardrobe that scale up and down. I like to be comfortable. I was drawn to this dress. It doesn't have any zips. I am not good at zips, and never used to bother me, but now I'm hopeless. And I've watched endless numbers of tutorials. I know how I'm supposed to do it, and I still waver about. Some of it I can blame on my fingers, can't always manipulate, but the best one is sewing the seam right to the, sewing your seam, say it's at the back, your back seam straight to the top. As you're getting where your zip markings are, then you can do that in a more of a basting stitch, and then lay your zip face down on the back of that seam and sew it in place, and then unpick your seam in the middle. Hope it's all in the right place. I've done that a couple of times. I'm still not happy with it. Is just where that has joined onto the skirt, this piece 7, this little midriff triangle, part of the diagonal, has been joined onto the skirt, and the skirt then joins onto this main diagonal band across the midriff. Well, when you've got that seam from the skirt, it has to go somewhere. So if you can't open it out because you've double sewn it, and it shows you still double sewn it on there. And if you flip it back, face it to the skirt, which is to suggest you then get a fold here from your seam allowance, if you understand what I mean. And if you fold it that way, which you're not supposed to do, that kind of disappears because you fold it into the seam allowance. No, you don't. That don't work either. So yeah, so you've just got to do a bit of jiggery pokery is the word I keep talking about. So it will lie flat. Or I try different things of taking it back and pivoting it and messing about, and keep it simple, Susan. That should be my motto. I think it's when you try too hard, you're just trying to avoid every little, I don't want to pucker obviously, but you're trying to avoid, it's a defying logic a bit to me. And you don't want to make a pleat down the front of your midriff. See, in the olden days I would have tacked it to within an inch of its life. That isn't going to work. I've got 3 inches left of this seam, and if I had any party poppers I would probably pop them now when I finish it. Whether it fits me or not, this has been the hardest bit. Lift it. Whenever you used the microphone after the first test. So I'm going to put this over, bracing my back as I do it. There we go. Pins a go-go. And let's see. Threads a go-go. To at least model this bit. Okay. That worked. I think that is meant to appear to be there, following through, and that is there, and then there's this skirt which I have added 4.5 inches to. Now I don't think it's gonna fit me properly at all, really, so that will be the next test. Oh, the cat's on one of her little outings now, so let's sew this darn thing up. I'd found a little pucker that I'd made on the seam, so I've just sorted that out. Tried to entertain the cat a little while. She's been out, she's come back in. She is a little troubled. Now then, I just need to match up my seams quite carefully to keep the effect. But I'm only going to do a 1/4 inch seam because I think I would be pushing my luck with anything more. Just holds them down from the rolling up. It's a never ending simple make this. It's just another thing that I should be doing, and another thing. These are just sewing in the seam allowance about 1/4 inch away from the previous seam, as I'm not overlocking it. Good morning. Just clocking in for session 3 of this dress. So where we're up to is, I will move this a minute. I'll just put it on, but I'll take it off. I've set my table up how I normally have it. It was so frustrating when I've got it opened out. It's brilliant because I've got extra space to do cutting out and doing patterns, and I'm just not restricted then to being able to cut out anyway. But when I'm sewing, I have no drop down part for this because I can't sit at that end because of the sofa, and then I've just got this on the table and my tools are all about me. So this is a much better setup. I feel I've done a bit of a whiz round with the vacuum cleaner and done a bit of dusting. Anyway, this is where we're up to. So this is the back. We're nearly done now. I keep going we as if like, oh, the royal we, we're all on in this together. I'm nearly done. This is the back, these are the seams. Sewn, obviously these are the seams, but sewn once and then sewn twice, not overlocked, and also decided not to top stitch it either. And so there is the back. The problem I was having in my mind, not really with the sewing, was that this piece goes on first, that piece goes on next, then this piece you would think is added to this. It isn't, it's added to the skirt, and all this is repeated on the other side. Once this was added to the skirt, this becomes one long piece. And the instructions are just to attach it to this diagonal line, the midriff piece. But my concern was that on the picture it shows, oh, I've left it upstairs now because I was filming, editing. It shows that this falls into position like that. And so in my head I was looking for, how do I pivot that point and make it go up that way and down that way? But I was just thinking too hard. And it doesn't need to be pivoted, it's all one thing, because this joined onto this. But the actual sewing of that seam just gave me a cause for concern. I've just set my camera up differently, and I just not as confident of where things are. So it was just sewing this in. Obviously that is just a seam, but you've got two pieces, a piece that's added onto it, and where does that end go, and how does it not make a pleat? So it was just that I just needed to get my head round, and once I kind of went, just do it, I did it, and it worked, and so that has come out quite good on the oops. See now, because I got my machine off, that's going to go all over. So that has come out really quite good there. Quite happy with that. And on the other side. So my main issue now is just a fitting issue. It has, as I said earlier, it's too baggy here. And so I was taking in, I did it once, and I took in this, I undid this seam, and I've undone it again since, undid this seam, and then the allowance that I needed, I joined it together again, and it fit relatively well, but my initial intention had been leave this bottom seam allowance as it should be, and then tuck this in behind it. So obviously you can't just do that, you have to reverse engineer it. So that meant I would have more seam allowance at this side, or more going into it, and a narrow seam allowance on that side. And a kind of easing round and an almost pivot point there. But that isn't what I did. Now, once I do that, that should be better. It's the side seams I'm concerned about now. It doesn't matter if I have to extend the armhole down. It's just that as the back meets the front, where it there is this, the diagonals meet as part of the design, really. And so I understand that's going to be a bit different, and that's fine, but it was pulling it, it was going to make it wrong anyway. I think it's better that I just make it. But I just wanted to catch you up with what my intention is. And hopefully, if I don't have the screaming abdabs, my goodness, it just got to me. The last time I had I was doing it, it just got to me. I could not get my head round just doing it. It became a thing that I needed to do extra to, so I took the seam out and then redid it and tried to, I could feel my shoulders up already. It was ridiculous. But that's the learning of it, isn't it? It's just, it's fathoming it out, but actually I'd little to fathom out. I just should have just done as I was instructed and got on with it. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to make this little, what I hope is a bit of a fix on that, and essentially what it does is kind of make that into a dart, because there's no shaping for the bust at all. It's just as flat as a pancake at the back and as flat as a pancake at the front, and that kind of won't do, will it? So, because it's got to give somewhere, so it just goes bulky here, even if it will strain itself on this area. Okay, let's get cracking. Okay, several times lucky this morning. Let's see if we can actually just crack on. Oh, no, something else. Oh. I just have a mat under the chair and the table so that I have my pressure foot on. There we go. And relax. The dress I'm wearing is the first thing I made after about 25 or longer year desert of not making anything, and it was a bit of a trial. I was rubbish at putting in the zip. It wasn't long after I'd had the accident with my hand, and I didn't have very good functionality. But I can't remember. I think I made the 14, and I just had to take it in and didn't get the bust right, and took that in and took. I always think it was a birder pattern, but it wasn't. I think it was a new look. I did my usual, even then, before statement sleeves had become statement sleeves again. In my era, hardly ever put a flat top sleeve in. So just a moment on this dress that I'm wearing. Maybe a month or so ago, I took the zip out, I took the facing off the neck, which where I'd sewn it had all bunched up into a, although it was very neat, it was all in a lump, and I hadn't been wearing it. It liked its position in the wardrobe, which it was in about 8 years. But then I recently made a shawl cardigan sleeveless in a quirky green fabric. Not quirky green, it was a lightish green, and it had yellow pineapple. I didn't know where the camera was then. I've moved it, as I said. Had yellow. My hair is sticking to me. I very rarely wear lipstick, and my hair is sticking to my lipstick. Okay, I shall try this on. If I can get round all my lamps. Oh gosh. I'm not having a good day. Okay, it's kind of done what I wanted it to do. It's not, anyway. I'm not really understanding why they think it's okay just to do something that's flat that's expected to go over bumps. So it's a bit annoying, I think, that they haven't worked out that you could do what I've just done and kind of create a bit of a dart. It's not as baggy here as it was. I will have to adjust the armholes to do something to put the sleeves in, but I'm going to think about it before I sew it permanently, or whether I take a bit more in, or I think it fit me better when I'd taken some off both. When I first did it, I took some out, brought this up, but then it misshapens. Misshapens it? I don't think that's a word, but it distorts the shape slightly. I don't know who'd notice. probably just me. But it's really quite, if there is, I'm also not too happy about this, because that wasn't a very long stitch. That was only like 2.5. So I will be going over things like that. But that looks like it's, I don't know. It just looks like a basting stitch, doesn't it? So anyway, and it's not even being stretched there at that point. But otherwise, it is, I know when I tried it on yesterday, it, even furniture, it pulls a little bit on one side, but I do like the shape of it. It's just slightly, does my bum look big in this? Yes, it does. It accentuates my sway back, which I have no problem with because I have a sway back, and I quite like it in a sense. There's just a little bit of fullness over this part of my hips, which, because I've got a reasonable waist, come down a bit, got a reasonable waist, my hippie bit, my bumpy bit is more here than here, so anything that accentuates that, which that green one does a bit, then that's not perfect, but I just want something that's so comfy, which just feels like this really, that I just sling on, do some sewing, do some lounging about, and yeah, I quite like it. I like that it's easy. It's an easy to wear fabric, and I like the swing. I'll show you properly afterwards. I just want to get it together really, and put the sleeves on, and then hang it for a while and hem it. I'm just going on to say, before I get changed again, I've just checked the seams, the stitch length on these seams, and I remember now that because I wasn't sure how it would fit, and I only put a 1/4 inch seam on, I just did it as a basting stitch, a machine tacking stitch. So yes, they're huge, they do need doing again, and across the front where I had the problem, that's why it looks huge, big gaps between the stitches, because that's what I did. Oh, I feel like now I've done it, I could just run another one up in a day, no problem. But I think that's what this process is about, isn't it? Learning what works, what doesn't work, what your strengths and weaknesses are, what you need to work on. And I enjoy that about it. I want to make another one now, but I want to make sure that I've addressed all the issues that this one comes up with before I start it. And also, if I'm not filming, I'm not chopping and changing, and oh, I can't sew that, I've not switched the camera on. Oh, is the camera working? Oh no, it's not. And then in the editing yesterday, I'm meandering on in an elderly lady fashion, which I suppose is what I am. And then I was sure that piece of video didn't come out. When I checked it, it seemed mute. I unmuted it on the top, and on the top of the screen, and I took the mic, not put the mic in anyway. I'd taken the mic out, because when you leave the mic in, you can't hear it. And I thought it's rubbish that it hadn't worked. It's not recorded sound. So I was meandering about doing another bit later on, and so I told you the same story again. But now when I was editing it, I've managed to get that piece right, that first piece that I thought was hopeless. And so I tell you the same long rambling story while I'm sewing something else, and it's just like, oh dear. I know I've got memory problems, but within a few hours I've told you the same story. It doesn't matter, that's what the editing's for. I can bring that sound down. Okay, I'm roasting now with all these lights on, so before I spontaneously combust, I will get changed, turn some of them off, and have a hot chocolate. I mean, I've been doing this for almost an hour, 50 minutes. I have to have a break after 50 minutes. It's so taxing. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. What I've done is I've sloped the sleeves down. No, the shoulder seam. Okay, so I've took the shoulder seam. Obviously it's fixed here because we've got the hem, but I've just sloped it down just very slightly and double stitched it, and that feels better too. So that feels like that's done something, because I do have sloping shoulders and they're not usually accommodated in a pattern, so I usually do a little tweak. So I've done that, and I'm just going to examine this seam again, whether I've taken enough down, and I may just take a little bit more, but I am having a hot chocolate first. Okay, so what I have done is gone over those seams on the front and just curved them a little, taken in a tiny bit more on one side, very small amount, and also I have neatened them. I've sewn the second row of stitches, and I've trimmed the seam to fit the alteration. If you can hear tapping, Alan is just going to ladle out some soup that he's made. Yeah, so I'd taken down the shoulder seam, just tiny amount, altered these, and I've got a better fit. I'm happier with it. I'm now going to just sew down the this temporary seam that I'd made that I'd forgotten was temporary, and I was, oh, how has this happened? It's too big a stitch. Anyway, so I'm going to sew that down, and as I get nearer the waist I will take a full 5/8 and wish me luck with that, and then I shall I have some soup and then try it on? I think I'll have some soup, then try it on, and then look at getting the sleeves in. I want this done today because I have other things that I want to crack on with. So off I go. When I say done, I don't mean hemmed and everything. If I've got it as far as it being able to hang it on a hanger or on my model overnight, then let it drop, and then I'll go around and see if I can hem it. I'm a little bit more excited now. So, glasses on. So if it doesn't work, it'll be an afternoon of unpicking for me, won't it? Won't it? It will. So we're just at the waist now. Yes, that's the one. Okay, just testing. Now, this is as far as I've got. I've managed to get a much better fit. This was all baggy. I've managed to do something about that. I've lowered the shoulders a little bit. I don't know how much you can see, so I'm just testing. This is just a practice. It's a really good fitted shape. I love the way it swings out. There's quite a lot of fabric on it. I've obviously not hemmed it yet. Let me see how that went. So let's get sewing. I don't know if this other angle has now cut off my head. It's all this jumping up and down and checking. Jump up and check if your video is recording. Low power mode. I just checked and it was 49%. I was putting it on the dock and then realised it's best if we just crack on. Whoops. Just on a basting or tacking, depending on where you're from. So I'm using a 1.5 still on a zigzag, but I'm doing a 4.5 length. It won't do anymore, so we shall see. I'm really pleased with the fit now, and I just tried it on. I mentioned about glasses before. I've lost another pair. I only use them for reading or close work. I'm very relieved that it's got a definite right side and wrong side. When you're using Ponte or something like that, or craft cotton, plain craft cotton, if you've just forgotten to mark the right and wrong side, or the wrong side, just one side, so that you know, it's kind of, you're forever checking and rechecking. Have you done two sleeves the same, or two left fronts, or whatever. But my spirits have definitely lifted since I've tried it on. Well, and since the try on that I tried on. Oh, did it fit me? Glasses. Glasses, madam. Other pair somewhere from this morning. Probably on here. I've got some on. Aha. Under the sleeve. Oh. Success. I would have been in a mess had I not altered them, added any extra. This particularly would have been too tight by quite a way. It's fine if I could still tighten them a little lower down, which I may do. I may taper them, because on the jacket I didn't do that, and they're a bit baggy. They would have been better if I'd have tapered them down, because I did I don't know what I did. I added extra. So that would be fine for me. And there's not a massive amount in here that would need to be. So I will taper those in. But am I glad I added that extra? And you see the length as well. Because by the time I've put kind of double hem on there, it's going to be up here. I don't like that. So yes, I will taper that in. Okay, this is a very strange picture. Just thought I'd show you just the extent of, it's not exactly a circular skirt, but it's quite extensive. Because of just how extensive this hem is, I've decided I'm going to leave it there for this video, because we're already into 1 hour 40 minutes, and by the time I get round to, I take you with me on the sewing it up, doing the sleeve ends and trying it on, then it's another video, and so I'd rather do that if you don't mind. So I'm going to make session 2 sew along, chat along, and so let's leave it there for now. Thanks ever so much for watching so far. I'm loving the dress so far, and I'd love you to see it finished. Thank you.